the Los Angeles police would be very well equipped to deal with this on their own, but the LA authorities are furious that Donald Trump has sent in the National Guard.
Right to the States, and protesters in LA torched and vandalised cars last night as police tried to keep them away from National Guard troops. Well, at least 10 protesters have been arrested and non-lethal bullets have been fired by the police. Here is the LA police chief, a man called Jim McDonnell.
This violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. And we have adapted our tactics to be able to have a chance to be able to take these people into custody and to be able to hold them accountable.
Well, that's the LA police chief. Let's go to Harriet Alexander, who's a correspondent in the US. Harriet, it's early on Monday morning in LA right now. What's the scene?
Yeah, so the number arrested has gone up to 27. It does seem to have calmed down a little bit in the last few hours. And that was after a very tense day on Sunday when, as you said, that there was police cars that were burnt. Some Waymo driverless taxis were also attacked. People were throwing fireworks, rockets, Molotov cocktails at the police. Very tense scenes across the city. But it does seem to be a little bit calmer now.
Yes, I mean, we don't want to get things out of proportion. 27 arrests out of an enormous population. This isn't spread right across this huge conglomeration. What is the word? What's the word, Fee?
Repeat the question, please.
Conurbation, Harriet.
Yes, I was going to say metropolis, but
That'll
yes,
do.
I mean, you're absolutely right. LA is very sprawling, and you're also right to point out that it is very localized. So, you know, these demonstrations are across the city, but they're not throughout the city by any means. They're around the one of the detention centers, which is used by the immigration authorities. They're in a district near Compton called Paramount, and they're up sort of slightly on the outskirts as well, so that they're at various points. What I think got a lot of people's attention was when they blocked one of the main highways going through the city, because of course LA is very much a city of cars, and so blocking that caused real disruption. But yes, localized, and yes, I mean 27 arrests yesterday. The issue, I think, really is that the Los Angeles police would be very well equipped to deal with this on their own, but the LA authorities are furious that Donald Trump has sent in the National Guard without their permission. And this is very rare indeed. It's the first time since 1965 that the National Guard has been sent in against the wishes of the local officials. Right. And I think that's really inflamed things.
Clearly, but I don't quite understand what the National Guard is and what it represents.
Right. So in the US, you have all these different layers of authority for policing. So you have the LA City Police, the LAPD. You have the California State Police. And then the National Guard is actually a federal authority. Trump is also talking about bringing in the US Marines. He's got those on standby, which I think would further inflame the situation. So the local authorities in California, they're saying we can deal with this. Of course, you know, California is a very liberal state, a very Democrat state. So for Donald Trump to send in these, I suppose, big forces without the consent of the local people is really put the city on edge. People don't like it at all. They want to control their own issues. Worth noting that George W. Bush thought about sending the National Guard into New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, but he thought that would be too provocative because the governor of Louisiana didn't want it. So it's worth stressing how rare this is, and it's made things very tense in LA.
Some of the leading Democrat voices have pleaded with people, haven't they? Basically saying, if you are protesting, and particularly if you protest violently, you are giving the Trump administration what it wants.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. It's sort of a red rag to a bull, isn't it? Seeing these scenes in LA. Donald Trump absolutely wants to make a show of being the strong man on immigration. He last week his administration was telling the ICE people, that's the people who detain the migrants, that they weren't acting quick enough, that they weren't being fierce enough, and they said that they need to really step up the number of people that they're rounding up and deporting. So what actually triggered all of this was on Friday, these immigration officials went to a series of factories in LA and rounded people up to try and reach these quotas. That's what really sparked all of this. And yes, the LA authorities are saying to people, please don't respond to this. Be peaceful. It's your right to peacefully protest. But when it spirals into violence, that's giving the Trump administration the excuse it's looking for. That's what they say.
Yeah.
To go in heavy-handed.
But of course, we need to bear in mind that Donald Trump was elected. The majority of people, the system in the States, made sure that he was the elected president. And lots of people love the idea of a crackdown on immigrants. And there are a lot of illegal immigrants in LA and surrounding areas, aren't there?
Right. And I think it's worth contrasting what's happening in LA to what's happening in New York, where I'm based, because Eric Adams, the mayor, who is certainly a complicated character, shall we say, quite a conflicted individual, but he has taken a different approach in that he is working with the federal immigration officials. He is not necessarily assisting them, but he's not blocking them. Whereas in LA and in Chicago as well, the authorities there are really doing their utmost to stop the deportations happening, to stop these roundups. And that really does give the Trump administration an excuse to go in and make a show of this. Of course, so much of it is about making the show, isn't it? Trump wants the scenes of him being a strong leader, of getting these people out of our country. And you're right, absolutely right, that there is strong public support for clamping down on the border, for being more aggressive in deporting people who came across illegally. So, the American public is in favor of that. But of course, the Americans hate seeing riots. They really dislike that. So they're trying to tamp that down as much as possible.
Really interesting to get your take. Thank you very much, Harriet. Harriet Alexander, who's a correspondent in the US.
On California, are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection.
There is, sir?
No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it.
Even if you don't plan to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you plan to send troops to Los Angeles?
What?
Even if you're not planning to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you still plan to send troops?
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden.
What is the bar for sending Marines to
The bar
different
is
cities?
what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.